Hey up muckers, right, welcome back to Delboy's Garage. Okay, you joined me last night and you saw me just repair this thread. Today I've got to go a stage further. I just want to clean all these up. This was the Richard, think he's dropping out. This was the thread last night that was offensive and needed to be repaired, and it is now, as you can see, that is perfect. What I did was drilled right down the inside, took everything out except the actual threads themselves, just the wire, left literally what it's like a coil of wire, and just pulled that out. And the thread was a bit messy, and as you can see, a little bit of effort. I've made a lovely job of that thread. That is now fine. The other thing was these two other bolts came out fine. They sort of wrestled out okay, but they've still left a lot of this stuff. One of you guys out there, my mate Terrorist One, made a point that this is aluminium oxide. That's the name of it. It's aluminium oxide, oxidized aluminium, that causes this white crud buildup. And it doesn't just occur on the surface, it occurs inside the thread as well. And the buildup just literally causes a problem. So I've done that one, as you can see. And that cut its way right to the bottom. So just cleaning up these threads now, making them absolutely perfect. And making sure there's no bits of swarf or ali oxide in there anymore. And that's nice and clean for the new bolts. And this is the final one, which I haven't done yet. Just put it in the thread. You can use this fully cut thread. The initial cutting threads, the initial cutting tap is chamfered at the end, but for this I'm using a full cut thread tap all the way to the end. Sorry, mumbling tonight. So just initially find the thread, nice and careful, and cross thread it, because these things will chew up a thread quite badly. And as you can see, it don't want to play. So the purpose of this is just to get the other two threads as good as the first one and go down it. It's got a resistance to it, you can kind of feel it. It's not spinning like the other two because it's just full of oxide, and this aluminium tends to do it when it's left in the weather. Also, those bolts that were in there were just cheap, nasty, horrible, cack, poor quality steel bolts, and they rusted. And as much as the rust, steel rusts to steel, it ends up morphing into one. But the steel itself became weak because it was just rusted and corroded, and the aluminium didn't help oxidizing up. So what I've done is I've been through my bolt box, and thankfully I found 3 of these, and these are beautiful. These are 12.9 torque, high tensile, stainless steel bolts, and this yellowy gold coating is just literally an anodized coating put on them to denote what they are. So these are high tensile steel bolts. These are very good quality. They won't rust at all, and they will do a good job of effectively preventing this happening again. They're drawn bolts, which means that rather than being machined or stamped, they're made of a solid piece of wire, and this end is then pressed, hot pressed in a machine. So these are top quality bolts. If you went, I mean, I don't know where these came from. I've had these, I just rigged from my bolt box. I found them, had them for years. I think I got them somewhere with a part that I bought. Probably used the old bolts because they was happy. But these are expensive. These are about £3 each. They're quite expensive, and they're going to do a great job of resisting this crap again. This particular one's resisting a little bit, and it's just literally crud. That's all it is. So I don't want to dwell on this too much. I'm just going to clean this thread up. When they're all cleaned up and the bolts are ready to go, that's that job jobbed. And then I'm going to deal with a couple of other things I'll show you about. So let me just get this finished. I'll join you in a minute. That's it, they're all in. Now finally, just using some common sense, thinking ahead, just pop a little bit of copper slip, or copper grease, whatever you want to call it, onto the end of each bolt, just so that it doesn't seize in the future. It acts as an anti-seize compound, and it stops the build-up of that aluminium oxide, and it will not seize in the future. So all 3 of those are copper slipped in. Going to pop them all the way in, send them all the way home, because I'm going to just do some sanding on this surface now. I don't want any crap getting in those threads, so I'm just popping these in to their base, to their seat, nice and gently, so they'll be nice and protected and sealed inside. Those threads are then held nice and clean, won't be any issues. So that's those three finished, job done. 3 threads fully repaired, new bolts sourced, cleaned up, copper slipped, ready to go. I can refit this. Now I just want to talk about this can a minute. I was going to try and stubby this. One of you guys that just subscribed, Coleman, you sort of mentioned you should stubby it, and I kind of agree because it is a bit long. It's a big old thing, but there is a problem. The cheap cans, you can stubby them quite easy because all you get on the end is a stainless cap that sort of just rivets in. Then you get a solid or a perforated tube through the middle and a stainless cap at the other end. But this is a Yoshimura RS3. This is an expensive can. These are about 300 quid, and this end is billet. It's actually billet. That's a big lump of billet, and inside there, which you can see, that end cap is welded, is TIG welded down inside, and there's no getting that off easily. It's not an easy task. You cannot cut, you cannot do the usual trick to stubby can, just to quickly go through it. You drill the end cap rivets out, you take the end cap off, you cut it to the length you want, you mark where the holes are, you drill the new holes, you put the cap back on, you fit it, you've got a small can. But this is not going to work that way. This is going to be a lot more surgery, and I have a feeling that if I try and butcher this, I'm going to naff it up. Sometimes knowing when to sort of refrain from getting your tools out is a good trick. And the other end is even worse. This has a choke being something that tapers, and as you can probably see from the light there, this starts off like this size, about 3.5 inch I think that is, and it goes down in size to about 2 inch, and I guess that's a performance facet of the Yoshi can, because, and here's the rub, that can, having taken that off, has lost me probably 20% of the performance. I just want to show you something about it. As you know, I made this thing, this baffle that goes inside. It's a pretty trick idea, and I think on many bikes it would work, but it hasn't worked on this. I've cut this down progressively 2 or 3 times, right down until it's just that big, and even sort of quite free flowing, but it's just not working. The problem I'm having is it's fluffy and chewy and soft, and it's just like an old bag of marshmallows that's been trodden on. It's awful. All the crispness has gone out of it. It's barky and it sounds great, and it's got 116 decibels now with this, and that is too loud even for here. A couple of you guys in Australia and in the States have said, you know, you get jailed for doing this. Well, you know, kind of so will I if I have any less than that. You cannot run that. That's pathetic. It's just not going to work. And the worst thing of all, I was kind of thinking, I don't know, maybe I'll redesign it, make a long baffle that's straight through. I could keep going, but the problem comes, I did a plug check, and I've been running this now for about a week, faffing around with different lengths of this, and the plugs are black as you like. They're sooting up. This is running rich now. This has killed the carburation. It's not running right. And before I started, I did a plug check, and they were fine. They were that typical oatmeal biscuit colour, which is correct for plugs. Now they're all black and sooted up, so it's running rich and it's not running right, and that's detrimental to the bike. So it's a bit of fun. It worked. I deliberately didn't cut this flange off for that reason. So what's going to happen, contrary to all the effort and faffing about, it's only a bit of fun, doesn't mean anything. A bit of something to do and post up for you to laugh at. So that's going to get abandoned, and I'm going back to the can. And problem being, as we see from this, I cannot stubby it. People probably could, I don't know, but I tried drilling out one of the rivets here, and as you can see, you just keep going, and it's just billet. It's just this billet alley inside. Oops, angle. So that, it isn't the usual sheet metal against sheet metal, drill the rivet out, then they come apart. They just don't. That's billet, and the rivet's gone. So I don't know what's going on in there, but I just don't want to butcher this because they are a lot of money, and this is quite rescuable. So the plan tonight is to whip this hideous badge off, because I absolutely naffing hate it. It's awful. It looks like something from Toyland. And when that's gone, I'm going to just do a nice Scotch-Brighted sanded finish, because this is way too far gone to ever polish up again. And chances are, fullness of time, that bike's going rat. I'm going to slowly rat bike this as time goes on. So having that shiny is pointless. So it's going to get a nice sanded finish. And got some sandy papers. I've got some Scotch-Brights. It's a progressive process. You start with rough, then you go to smooth, then you blah blah blah. And I'm going to make a nice job of this. I can drill that through, put a new rivet back in that. As you can see, last night and tonight I've done that. That's now correct, and then this can be refitted, and I'll get all my performance back. It used to be crisp, beefy, and it used to pull right hard. It used to leap forward as soon as you crack the throttle. Now it's kind of fluffy and lethargic. So it's an experiment. It didn't work, and that's the way it goes with these things. So stick around, stay tuned. I'm going to make this look nice. I've got to stick with that length because I'm just not in the mood to kind of start butchering this and end up ruining it and losing it, because it's a very expensive can, albeit it's a little bit tired. I'll make it look nice. I think that's the secret. So stick around, stay tuned, see what I can make it look like. Okay, just going to drill these little rivets out gently. These are little alley rivets, so they're very soft. And they only need the tiniest little bit of drill like that. Take some clean off. Just hate this badge, just think it looks awful. It's not a sports bike. Doesn't need a race brand plastered on it. Problem with these badges, they just around the edge they just collect crud, so you can't clean, can't polish them. Ends up a mess. That's that out of the way. Now I'm going to keep drilling with these gently to actually drill them out all together. There you go, nice and flat. Now there's a lot of wadding underneath there, so they won't leak through here. If you just drill them carefully, you just make a little chamfer like that. And then afterwards you can put a tiny rivet in there just to make it look finished and not as if something's missing. That one's pushed in. Good, there we go. Right, that's pretty much it. Time to clean it up. Okay, going to start with some 120 grit. Just going along the can in straight lines, just so as not to make any curvy, messy lines. It's got to be straight lines, and then as we get finer and finer, you'll get a nice sheen to it. So let's make a start with this. Probably seems quite sacrilege to sand a polished can, but when it's so corroded, you're not losing anything. In fact, you're making it better. You've got to labour on pieces that are really corroded under that badge, or under that strap rather. And all these little dots and spots, they're just corrosion. So this is good fun. Just work your way down through it. Working in one direction all the time so you don't end up with crisscross lines. And then we'll go finer in a minute. Right, going over to 240 grit now, reducing it down. Reduce the visible scratches, bring a bit of sheen to it. And finally, Scotch-Brite and WD-40. WD-40 carries it away. The Scotch-Brite takes out all the scratches and just makes a misty finish. And this is just time consuming now. Takes about twice as long as the sanding because it's not aggressive. It's nice and soft, and this is just really buffing it to a satin shine, if such a thing is possible. You know what I mean? Right, let's stuck into this. As you can maybe see, the WD-40 and Scotch-Brite method is great because it gets all those little black marks out, all the little pit marks, and really restores the pipe. And if I had a buffer and I could be bothered, you could put this on a buffer and get this back to a mirror polish now from here, dead easy. But I want to keep it this satin finish because I kind of like it. Looks a bit industrial. There it is. And I think that's a better look than manky polished pipe that looks a bit manky and horrible. It's a better finish. Works on the billet cap as well. You get a lovely satin finish to it. So that's pretty much it. I'm not going to overdo it. You can keep going to this for hours, finer and finer, until effectively you get the old auto sol out and you start to shine it up. But I don't want to polish it. I want a satin finish. And pretty much that is it. Pretty much refurbished. Now what I'm going to do is deal with these 3 rivet holes now. Just need to drill them out because the rivet head's still there, making a pinhole. So I'm going to put 3 tiny rivets in them just to seal the holes so that they don't leak. So first job, carefully drill them out. There's one. I could put a badge back on, but as I said, don't like it. It's not a nice thing. It's ugly and it's damaged, so better off without it. Last time, rivets. Now just fill the holes with rivets, and it just looks like there's something riveted through the inside. Doesn't look wrong at all. Certainly looks better than a crappy badge. It was all damaged. Lovely. Okay, and that, my good people, is it. They look alright there. They certainly look better than, where is it? That old piece of cack. The end looks gorgeous. Lovely soft sheen, real engineered look. So I'm going to have a cam, which clearly I am. Might as well have on. Looks a bit good. Okay, it's tidied it up. It's time to get it on the bike. Okay, just about to put the K-iron back on, and I'm just going to use, this is a little tippet, I'm going to use some of this silicone. All you do, squirt a copious blob on there and around the back, and then just spread it around. The idea of this stuff, it's like a gasket, I guess, like an instant gasket. It'll help it slide on nicely, give it a nice finish, and it will seal any gas leaks. Gas leaks make popping and banging the tubing, and that's no good. If it's popping and banging and spitting, that's when the coppers take notice. But if it's nice and smooth and you just keep your throttle shut, you can get away with all sorts of noisy pipes. So a little bit of silicone, and it is just the stuff that you use for your windscreens and windows on your cars, and it's just a general purpose silicone. Once it's sealed between the joint, the heat does not affect it. It will stay there. It won't go anywhere. It can't burn unless there's oxygen. Simple rule of fire: heat, fuel, oxygen. And it doesn't have oxygen because it's jointed. It's sealed in between the 2 metal surfaces, and all it does is serves as a nice rubber gasket. Stops leaking. And there it is, all refitted, looking good. It's like a stainless steel satiny finish now, which is a lot better than it was with that hideous badge and all sort of corrosion, cruddy lumps. And the 4 little rivets don't look wrong at all. End cap looks quite trick, sort of satin finish. And if this gets cruddy and corroded, just get Scotch-Brite, just rub it back up. Ever so simple. You see a lot of billet parts on Harleys and choppers like that. So there it is. Tried to do something a bit different with the baffle thingamajig. didn't work, bike ran a bit crap, so gone back to that. There it is. Looking forward to a ride to work tomorrow. That's all for now. Thanks for tuning in and watching Delboy's Garage. See you all next time.